Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandanam Rajajanaranjanam Yashodanandanam Rajajanaranjanam Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjanam Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Tarjagacharya Ashtottara Shata Shishimad Srila Abhay Charanand Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gau Premanande Need a book. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We'll be reading this evening from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. For those of you who were here, you will recall that night before last we read from chapter 14. We're speaking on the topic of the three modes of material nature. And chapter 14 is dedicated to that topic. It's also continued the same topic through chapters 16, 17, and 18. So we will continue in those chapters tonight. So, chapter 17 is entitled The Divisions of Faith. Who knows what determines the divisions of faith? It's stated that we're talking about divisions of faith. What divisions are they? Who knows? How is faith divided? Three kinds of faith. Goodness, passion, ignorance. The same modes that we're talking about. So actually, chapter 17 really begins at the end of chapter 16. Because at the end of chapter 16, Krishna tells Arjuna very pointedly that you should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, you should act in such a way that you may gradually be elevated. Tasmat chastram pramanam te karya vyavasthitao Jnadva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartami harhasi. And even before that he also said, Yah shastra vidhamotrijya vartate kamakaratah nasa siddhim avapnoti nasukham na param gatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. These are very strong statements. They're very clear statements. And so Arjuna's curiosity was piqued by hearing these things. So Arjuna begins chapter 17 himself. He asks Krishna a question. This is also telling, if we hear something that maybe bothers us, or if we hear something that in any way interests us, we should ask about it. Those who come to ISKCON temples, you know that in the end of the lecture they always ask if anyone has any questions. This is what it's for. This is called Paramparagata Vidya. We receive this in disciplic succession, beginning with Arjuna. Arjuna is teaching us by his own example. So, Arjuna Uvacha, Ye Shastra Vidhamutstrijya Yajante Shraddhayanvitaha Tesham Nishtatu Ka Krishna Satvam Aho Rajastamaha. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of Scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? Purport by Srila Prabhupada, he writes, in the 4th chapter, 39th verse, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. Where is that? Chapter 4? Which verse? Nobody's listening. 39, that's right. Very good. You get a gold star. If you accumulate enough gold stars, you can turn it in and get a prize. Just kidding. That's Esha te abhihita sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrino buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. So thus far, Krishna tells Arjuna, I've described this knowledge to you through analytical study. That's called Sankhya. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruit of results. That's called karma. O Sanaprata, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is referring to here. Both karma and jnana are important, and Krishna says twice in Bhagavad Gita that somebody who thinks that Sankhya and Yoga are the different things is not so smart. But actually yoga means karma yoga in this context. And karma means what? What does karma mean? Karma. Action. What kind of action? Okay. Anything else? Ritualistic actions that are enjoined in the Shastra. That sounds consistent with what it says at the end of chapter 16, doesn't it? So karma means actually dharma. If it's not dharma, it's not karma. And what do we call it if it's not karma? Vikarma. Otherwise known as papa. So punya, karma, and dharma, they're all the same thing. And similarly, papa, vikarma, and agyan, they're all the same thing. Only two ways you can act in this world. One is properly and one is improperly. This is what Krishna is saying in the end of chapter 16, and therefore Arjuna is asking, Shastra Vidhamutsrijya, somebody who's giving up the injunctions of the Shastra, but Yajante Shraddhayanvita, he's very faithful and he's worshipping. Tesha Nishtha Krishna. What is his nishtha? Is it sattva, is it rajas, or is it tamas? Sorry. Okay, let's start over again. Om Jnana Tiberantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam. Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha. Here Arjuna is asking Krishna, what is the nishtha of a person who worships with great faith but does not follow the Vedic injunctions in particular? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita has described this in very nice detail. He says that this person is worshipping with great faith, but he's not following the Shastra Vidhis. So nishtha, what does nishtha mean? Nishtha, what does it mean? What is your baseline? What is your baseline faith? What is your basis? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls it. What is here Prabhupada translates it, faith. Nishtha, whatever you're fixed in, whatever is pakka for you, that is called nishtha. So he's asking, are they in sattva, are they in rajas, or are they in tamas? So here Prabhupada is paraphrasing what we've heard from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. In the 16th chapter, he reminds us, it's concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scriptures is called an asura. What does an asura mean? Demon. Very strong statement. And one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a deva. That means godly person, or even a god. Now, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? This is the doubt. So what does Krishna say? Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Trividha bhavati shraddha dehinam sasvabhavaja. Satviki rajasi chaiva tamasi cheti tam shnu. Listen, I'm going to tell you. Listen. The Krishna speaking, not me. Tam shrinu. Listen, I'm going to tell you about this. The faith of people who are embodied, dehinam. Raise your hand if you do not have a body. You can't. Therefore, it's concluded everyone here has a body. Therefore, this instruction is meant for us. Swabhava shraddha trividha bhavati. You have three kinds of faith, and they're born out of? No. What does it say here? Swabhavaja. Born out of your swabhava. Your swabhava is born out of the three modes, but your faith is born out of your swabhava. This is important. And he says that your swabhava can be sattviki, your swabhava can be rajasi, or your swabhava can be tamasi. So what kind of swabhava do you have? This is, they say in psychology, self-awareness is the beginning of all therapy. You have to be aware of where you stand. You have to at least know you're crazy. Otherwise, you don't go to a psychologist to begin with. You see? So, now Baladev Vidyabhushan has also written some very enlightening comments on this point. First of all, Krishna continues his answer, so let's continue with the text. Satvanu rupa sarvasya shraddha bhavati bharata shraddha mayoyam purusho yo yat shraddha sa eva sa. Very beautiful statement from the Lord. He says, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes that he has acquired. So, Sattvanurupa Sarvasya Shraddha. Everybody's faith is based on their sattva. What does sattva mean? No. Surprise, surprise. This is why we need commentaries. In this particular verse, sattva does not mean sattva guna. What else does sattva mean? Huh? Truth? Okay, essence, all right. Anything else? Okay, we can even go that far. But sattva here means your existence. Just like back in chapter, what was it? A couple of chapters ago, Krishna said, sattva samshuddhi. He talks about purification of your existence. So your existence, sat-tva. Sat means to exist, tva means existence. So you have to purify your existence. What existence is he talking about when he's talking about purifying it? Is your spiritual existence impure? No. So what existence is he talking about? It has to be either the mind or the body. These things are impure, you see? And as long as we identify with these things, then we are said to be impure. If we identify with the passionate mode of nature, what is the symptom of passion? Those who are here, parason, they know. What did we discuss? Desire, hankering, frenetic activity. This is called passion. And what are the primary characteristics or lakshana of the mode of ignorance? Anybody remember? Laziness. What else? Madness and depression and inactivity in general. Ignorance, foolishness, madness, like this. These people just want to blow it off and they don't want to accept any responsibility. That's the mode of ignorance. And the mode of goodness is characterized by what? Knowledge, awareness, enlightenment, virtue also. Knowledge, virtue, these are the things. So, sattvanu rupa sarvasya shraddha. Your faith will be according to the mode that you're primarily associating with. Whatever mode of nature you primarily embrace, that is going to determine your faith, and your faith is going to determine everything that you do, every decision that you make, every idea that you adopt as your own. Faith is so important. Why is this chapter 17, why does he spend a whole chapter just discussing these three divisions of faith according to the three modes of material nature? Because it's that important. Ado shraddha. Tata, everything else. In the beginning you have faith, and depending on what your faith is, you invest that faith either here or there. And depending on where you invest your faith, you have to follow that trajectory. You see? Human life is serious business in that way. So, shraddha mayo yam purusho. This living entity is called, he's considered to be a person according to the nature of his faith. Whatever your faith is, that's what you are. Yo yat shraddha sa eva sa. Now, this is where Baladev Vidyabhushan also, he gets into very interesting detail. He says, there's two kinds of faith, he says, basically. We're talking about three kinds of faith, but he's bumping this down into two categories. One, they're both based on the modes of material nature, both categories. So what is the first category? He calls this Swabhavaja Shraddha. We've already heard this from Krishna himself in verse 2. Dehinam sa swabhavaja bhavati shraddha trividha. 3 kinds of faith based on your swabhava. Now, and we've already described also, if you have a sattvic swabhava, your faith will be sattvic. If you have a rajasic swabhava, your faith will also be rajasic. If you have a tamasic swabhava, your faith will be tamasic. We gave the example. What is an example of tamasic faith? You have strong faith, but because you're tamasic, therefore, how do you manifest your faith? You fly jetliners into skyscrapers. You kill everyone who doesn't agree with you. You worship ghosts and spirits, Krishna says, bhuts, prets. Anybody know what is a pret? Pra-ita. What does it mean? He's already gone on. Ita means having gone on. But preta, according to the acharyas, means somebody who neglects his varna ashram dharma as a human being. In his next life, he's deprived of the opportunity to engage in varna ashram because he becomes a pret. Someone, I don't know if this is shastric or not, someone told me, this is what we call janashruti. Someone told me that the Yamadutas are employed from the ranks of these pretas, and they're so angry because their descendants did not offer pinda to deliver them, and so then when they see somebody not making the same mistake that got them in this mess, they're very enthusiastic about enforcing the law, Yamadutas. Anyway, you take that for what it's worth, but this is definitely, you can depend on Krishna's word here, you can depend on what Baladev Vidyabhushan says. If you have swabhavaja faith, that is to say, if you're running on fumes, the tank is empty, but you're running on fumes. Whatever your samskar is from your last life, if you're just depending on that alone, then it may carry you for some time, but your swabhava will change, because everything does in this material world. This material world, karma bhumi, is of the nature of which mode predominantly? Passion. And what happens, what is the characteristic of passion in addition to hard work and excessive desire? Male and female attraction, okay, that's undeniable. I mentioned this the other night also. Change. Change necessarily means passion, because all change is impelled by desire in this world, either directly or indirectly. So our nature will change over time. So do not be proud and do not be foolish to assume that even if you've got a very good deal in this life, it's enough to carry you, because the tank is empty. What you're running on is the fumes of your past yajnas and your past gyan and your past punya. And that will run out. It always does. Just like your credit card. Every month there's a new bill. It's not because your August bill was fine that your September bill is going to be good too. It depends on what you do. It's just like that. We discussed this already. And when those who are injudicious as so-called human beings, they find that at the time of death, they get tapped on the shoulder. Who's tapping them on the shoulder? Maybe not Yamaraj personally, but certainly one of his agents, Chitragupta. Excuse me, sir, we've got to discuss your karmic debits. We have to clear your account somehow or other. So, therefore, we have another kind of faith that Baladev Vidyabhushan mentions, which is also more important, actually. If you've decided that I'm not just going to run on whatever piety I've done in the past and depend on my ever-changing swabhava to determine what my faith is, then what is your other option? Then he calls this Shastra Janya Shraddha. Shastra Janya. It's born out of a careful study of the Shastra in the association of good devotees. That really elevates you, because that kind of faith is necessarily sattvic. Your swabhavaja faith may be sattvic, or it may be rajasic, or it may be tamasic, but Shastra Janya Shraddha is always sattvic. And sattva guna is a more dependable vehicle as a human being to carry you forward into a progressive future. So sattva guna is always encouraged in the Shastra. Now, we can just add a note here. that sattva guna alone, ordinary sattva guna, is not the end of your endeavor. It's only like having a very fertile field in which you can plant some crops. If you don't actually plant those seeds, if you don't actually cultivate those seeds, water them carefully, protect them from... When I was in Vrindavan, I used to live in Chaitanya Vihar, in neighborhood, a new subdivision in Vrindavan. There are so many new subdivisions in Vrindavan. But my neighbor had a nice bed of flowers in the front yard. Must have been a diliwala. They didn't know that you can't do that in Vrindavan because there was no fence around the flowers. So one day I looked out, one morning after puja, I looked out the back window and I saw that there was a whole family of goats, all very happily munching away. And they decimated the man's garden, and it, within 5 minutes, the whole thing was gone. You see? For this reason, when you're cultivating the bhakti lata, we say, you also have to be very careful. And that requires sattvic shraddha, and it requires generally sattva samshuddhi, purification of your existence, which means that you are solidly situated. Your nishtha, your baseline faith, so to speak, has been elevated to that mode. So it's like having a very fertile field in which you can plant these crops. But you have to do the work and plant them, and you have to cultivate that garden. But without doing that, it's, okay, you've got potential. That's what we can say, you see? So he says Shastra Janya Shraddha is actually superior for that reason. You begin from a very high point, and if you make proper decisions, if you invest your time and your faith in good association, then you can actually become liberated even from birth and death altogether. Beyond even liberation, you can actually develop this prema, transcendental love of Godhead. So when we say sadhu sanga sarva shastra kaila lava matra sadhu sanga sarva siddhi hoy, that's what we're talking about. Everything is affected by good association. Who else says this? Awadhi bhasha mein Tulsidas ne kaha ki. What is it? He said, Binu sat sanga na hari katha binu mohana bhaga. Moha gaye binu rama pada hoy na dridhana raga. Same idea. Nothing happens without association. Okay, so this is important in the first 3 verses. Very, very important things are being stated here. I'm going to just skip back to text number 1 now, because Arjuna is mentioning, we're talking about people who give up Shastra Vidhis and worship with great faith, but not exactly according to the Shastra. This means 2 things. It means, 1, they don't follow the Vedic Shastras. They have some other Shastra that they follow. For example, they may be following the Bible, or they may be following the Quran or the Dhammapada or something like that. So that's also Shastra, but this is not what Krishna is talking about, and it's not necessarily going to elevate you, because those faiths themselves, many of them are in Tamoguna or Rajoguna. Even in Hinduism, we have material Hinduism. Do you know this? I call it material Hinduism. There's 2 kinds of Hinduism. Spiritual Hinduism and material Hinduism. Material Hinduism is, you go to Mauritius, you'll find it there. Or in other places also. People go to the temple only to bribe the deity in order to find, it's easier than bribing their boss sometimes. The deity is more powerful than the boss anyway, so they have that faith, and so they go and they do some yajna, they follow some sort of discipline, and then they get what they want. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you can do that, and it works. But that is passionate, and the results are always temporary. Therefore, he says the alpa medhas, the people with a little bit less intelligence, they're the ones who run after this. Kamaistaistair hritajnana prapadyante anya devataha ityadi. Okay, but they're worshipping according to the authority of the Vedas. Therefore, they do get elevated. It's a very slow process, but it works also. So this is Vyasadeva's mercy. He's given an option for everyone, no matter what mode or no matter how sunk they may be in ignorance. Everyone gets a chance. But the best thing is that we follow those shastras that are coming from Bhagavan directly, that are the shastras that are very sattvic, and which will automatically elevate us. They begin from the sattva guna. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, is meant for people who are already elevated beyond that. Therefore we find, in other scriptures, we find instructions like, don't kill other people, don't sleep with your mother. Very basic kind of moral instructions that are not necessary in Bhagavatam, because the people are already elevated. The audience was already elevated. Who is the audience of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Sages. Very elevated, advanced jnanis, yogis, rishis, and bhaktas. And who is the audience of the Bhagavad Gita? Arjun. Very highly civilized, Aryan. He's a very noble person. So he's fit for this instruction, and Krishna says as much later on. Bhaktosi me sakhacheti rahasyam hietarutama. You're already a bhakta, therefore you can get this. Other people have a hard time. All right, so now Krishna is going to dilate a little bit more on the modes of material nature. First he talks about some of the characteristics of those who worship in the various modes. If we're talking about swabhava ja shraddha, faith that's based on your swabhava, which may be in one of three modes, he says, those in the mode of goodness worship demigods, those in the mode of passion worship the demons, and those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. We've said this already. Anybody have any questions on this? Yes.
By spirits they mean impersonal?
No, they mean like ghosts. No, personal ghosts. Unembodied persons.
What if they call the soul spirit?
That's a different thing. Then you're in the realm of gyan. That's no longer just we're looking at ritualistic worship here. At least that's how I take it. Yajante means to offer sacrifice to someone. You don't generally offer sacrifice to the universal impersonal spirit because you don't believe that there's a recipient ultimately. You see? So that's a different thing. That's more like pantheism, which is the Latin term for what we call monism, or universal awareness of universal spirit. Okay, so this is pretty clear. Then he says, those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish, and who torture the material elements of the body as well as the supersoul dwelling within, they're known to be demons. Very strong statements. What does it mean? Let's look at the Sanskrit. Ashastra vihitam ghoram tapyante ye tapo janaha dambhahankara sanyuktaha kama raga balanvitaha. Now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this. Why are they proud and arrogant? What is it about these people who have faith and are worshipping, but they're just not doing so under the aegis of the Vedic literatures? Why does Krishna call them here in this verse Dambha and Ahankara, proud, arrogant? Why? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the reason they're called proud and arrogant is because they're worshipping without regard for what the scripture says. A person who is humble will listen to what the scripture says, because that is always the advisable thing to do. In fact, that's what Krishna finished saying in the end of chapter 16. That's what created Arjun's question to begin with. And kama raga balanvitaha. Sacrifice means you're giving something up. So what is the question of sacrificing if you're impelled by kama, raga, and bala, these three things? What do they mean? Desire, attachment, and strength. What does it mean? What is their kama? Their kama is to worship, but without Krishna's shastras. They want to worship without following shastra. That's their desire. The raga is that they're attached to something that's basically unauthorized. And the bala is whatever strength they get from that process, because you can get some advancement. Any kind of worship is better than no kind of worship. So karshayantas sharirastham bhutagramam achetasa mam chaivantas sharirastham tan vidyasura nishchayam. Krishna says they torture the material elements of the body as well as the super soul dwelling within. How do you torture the super soul dwelling within? How can you hurt the Supreme Lord? By being ignorant? Anything else? By ignoring him. He's giving you instructions here in Bhagavad Gita, and instead you're following some process by which you're trying to fix your mind on him without listening to what he has to say. It's kind of like this. I'm sitting here and giving a lecture, and if I feel thirsty and ask someone, you please bring me a glass of water, and you all make sure that you've got it on recorded, and you're taking scrupulous notes, and you're listening with rapt attention, but you don't make a move. What have you heard? Nothing. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada often used to say, hearing means acting. If you've really heard, then you follow. And similarly, Krishna says, if you're really humble, if you're really not proud and arrogant, then you follow my instruction at the end of chapter 16, which is to base your life on the Shastric Vidhis. Whatever the Shastra enjoins, that's what you do. You don't do anything more, and you don't do anything less. And if you resent this principle, then what does he call you? Not me. Not what do I call you? What does Krishna call you in the verses that we've been reading? Think text number 1 and 2. Yeah, he calls you, I'm sorry, it's, which one is it? He calls in them demons, actually. Not because they're in the mode of passion, because they're in the mode of godlessness. Just like I live in India, and I'm struck with wonder all the time, because I live in Vrindavan. It's maybe 2-3 hours ride from Vrindavan to Delhi airport. I try to avoid Delhi if I can. But you don't even drive through Faridabad anymore because it's solid jammed every day, traffic. It's no question of it. The drivers go through Sohana instead, in the back roads. And I'm noticing even there's new subdivisions, new high-rise condominiums going up, and they have names like Central Park, Flower Valley. I mean, it's not even Indian anymore. And I'm meditating on this. Why is this? There's a reason behind everything. This is not just, it's not just by coincidence. Yeah, see, he's heard something. Thank you. So nothing happens by coincidence. Everything involves personal decisions, personal desires, personal motivation, you can say. So, I was speaking with one devotee in South India about this, and he said, actually, because he also lives in India, he says, it's actually envy. They don't want anything Indian, because Indians, at least I should say, Bharatiya Paramparagata Sanskriti, the traditional Indian civilization, is permeated by Vishnu and Bhakti. The whole society is just completely permeated with this. That is its elevated character. That is the character for which it's widely known and celebrated. India is a very spiritual culture. And when you want to get Vishnu out of the picture, then you need to change the society, because he pervades the society. And you need to, in order to do that, you have to even change the language. Kam se kam 50%. Hindi bolne wale, Angrezi shabda ka prayog hote, Well, why is that? Because, it's... Anyway, I don't want to dilate too much on this point. But the point is this. When we decide to get rid of Shastra, then that is a step towards the demoniac. Because it's just It's like the second cousin of stepping away from Vishnu. It's called Ishat Apeta in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhayam dvitiyabhiniveshata syat Ishad Apetasya viparyayo smriti. And when we make that decision, it is a decision, make no mistake, personal decision, then what do we get as our constant companion from that point on? Bhayam, fear. Because then we're not Vishnu, and we no longer are working under Vishnu's protection also by our own choice, so we have to worry about what's going to happen next. Because in case you haven't noticed, it's always one problem after another. There's always one hassle after another in this world, and you don't know what's coming. Raise your hand if you're absolutely certain that you will be alive in 2 weeks. We expect it, but we cannot prove it, because there's no guarantees. I should tell you this. Last summer, around this time, I was in Chicago. I got a phone call from my sister. And my twin brother, he had throat cancer, but he went to the doctor early enough. They cleared it up, or so they thought. What happens is it usually comes back with a vengeance after you undergo the standard treatment. So she called me up and said, listen, your brother, he's going in for a sensitive surgery. They found there are some more tumors. But the tumor was wrapped, 3-4 tumors were wrapped around the carotid artery. Any doctors here know. That's your jugular vein. And you can't do surgery, because if you play around with the jugular vein, you can induce a stroke and dead, just like that. So she said it's a very sensitive... How long do I have to speak? It's late, no? I can go on? Okay. So she said, he may not make it, you better come. So 2 days later, I was sitting with him in the hospital. He himself told me that the same sister who called me to warn me about this, she was now in the same hospital that he was in, 1 floor beneath her, diagnosed with some obstruction in her brain. She was running around taking care of my brother, and she felt dizzy, and she was smart enough to call the doctor about it. And the doctor said, we found something in your brain, we need to take a bunch of tests. And they took so many tests. Eventually it turns out, glioblastoma. That means inoperable brain cancer. She died this April, a few months ago only. In less than 6 months, I lost 2 siblings. So the world is like that. There's no guarantees. What is that? Shankaracharya said, Nalani dalagata jalamati taralam tadvad jivitam atashaya chapalam. This life is even more unsteady than a drop of water on a lotus leaf. Even more unsteady. You see? So, Krishna is not speaking here to exploit us. And it's not that these books were written by people who are themselves interested in exploiting us, apart from Krishna. He's our friend. He's our friend. And he's only trying to give us good instructions. So, he goes on to say that, tan vidhi asura nishchayan, people who do these things, they are consumed by an asura bhava. In the Padma Purana, Vishnu Purana, we have a very instructive verse. Dvau bhuta saragau lokesmin daiva asura evacha. In this world there are 2 types of people, the Devas and the Asuras. Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Deva, those who accept Vishnu Bhakti, those who don't mind the fact that Vishnu permeates the traditional Indian culture, they're called devotees, Suras. And those who are opposed to that, Asuras Tad Viparyaya, they're called Asuras. This is the thing. So this is polarizing knowledge. It's very polarizing. And now we're talking about the 3 modes of material nature. This is the context of these strong statements by Krishna, not by me. Aharastu api sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha. Yajñas tapas tatha danam tesham bhedam imam shrino. Now listen, Krishna says. Listen now. What is he going to tell us about? 4 things. Anybody caught it? Yeah, he says, Ahara, Yajna, Tapa, Dana. 3 modes of eating, 3 modes of yajna, 3 modes of tapasya, and 3 modes of charity. Shall we read on? Okay. As for eating, he says, the things that are dear to those in the mode of goodness, they are ayu, sattva, balarogya. They are very healthy, they increase the duration of life, and they strengthen you. Sukha priti vivardhanaha, they make you happy. Rasyaha, snigdhaha, stira, hridya, ahara, sattvika priyaha. These things are dear to those in the mode of goodness. Rasya, what does rasya mean? Juicy. Snigdha, fattening. Think gulab jamans. Stira means makes you strong also. Hridya, pleasing to the heart. En español el dicen que, what is it? Estómago repleto, corazón contento. If your stomach is full, your heart is happy. So, katva amla lavanati ushna tikshna ruksha vidahinaha. Ahara rajasa syeshta. The people in the mode of passion, they desire different kind of foods. They want something which is katu. What does katu mean? Bitter. And what is an example of bitter thing? Karela. But it should be understood that when we say katu, amla, lavanati, ushna, ityadi, we're talking about extremely so. Extremely so. Amla is sour things. Lavana, salty things. Ati ushna, too hot. Anybody from Hyderabad? You know red chilies. Ocean of red chilies. So this is passion. This is dear to those in the mode of passion. But there's a problem. When we read chapter 14 the other night, who remembers? What is the result of the mode of passion? What is the result of the mode of passion? Yeah, you suffer. The result of passion, it's the prayas versus shreyas problem that we mentioned also. You enjoy now, but you pay later. You see? Therefore, dukkha, shoka, amaya pradaha. Right now, it's immediately it causes dukkha, because when you put too much chili on your tongue, I got to have something sweet. Or if you're ignorant in the mode of ignorance, and you think I've got to take water, and that just spreads the heat around. Doesn't solve the problem at all. So immediately it's dukkha, but shoka prada also, it causes distress. So it seems that these two things are saying the same thing. What's the difference? You don't get it from looking at the board. It comes from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says later on, in the long term, it causes problems. If you eat the wrong things for too long, you get diseased also. This is Ayurveda. Just like Ayurveda also says, if you don't rise before sunrise and empty your bowels and clean your tongue and all these things, dincharya they call it, then after some time the amavisha builds up in your system and just distributes itself throughout your system and you get sick. You see? Says this is part of that process. If you're eating things that are essentially not, they're poisoning you, actually. They're toxic things. Then you get toxified. We can say intoxicated, perhaps. You're too smart. I'm going to bookmark that question and answer it later. Amaya prada. Therefore, this is, I mentioned already. Amaya prada means it gives you disease. Now, yata yamam gata rasam puti paryashitam chayat uchishtamapi jamerhyam bhojanam tamasa priyam. When we're in the mode of ignorance, what do we like? Yata yamam. What does yata yamam mean? Yata means something which is past. Yama means ashta yama. Yes. Beyond, it's too old. How old? There are 8 yamas in the day. So if one yama has passed, the 3-hour period, they say in Ayurveda, if food is, once it gets cold, then that means it's yata yamam. You see? Therefore, we don't leave leftovers. Leftovers is another problem. If you eat leftovers, it ultimately will make you sick, if you get in that habit at least. So yata yamam gata rasam. It's tasteless. You see? Puti. What does puti mean? Yeah, it doesn't smell very good. Paryushitam. What does that mean? it's stale, or it's beginning to go bad. Chayat. Or two other categories. What are they? Uchishtam. Uchishtam means remnants. That remnants means not remnants of Krishna, not remnants of the Guru or some saintly person. That's always transcendental. But anyone else's remnants. In the early days of ISKCON, somebody got the bright idea. This is why they say a little learning is dangerous. Somebody got the bright idea. Let me go to everyone's plate in the Sunday feast and collect all the remnants so that we don't waste prasadam. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. This is discouraged in Bhagavad Gita. And finally, the last category, amedhyam. What does amedhyam mean? It's unofferable. Just like sometimes in this country, when people are new to Krishna consciousness, they don't know so much, but they might have read the idea that patram pushpam palam toyam, and they get a bright idea. Let me go to McDonald's and offer that too. Now that doesn't work, because Krishna doesn't eat that kind of thing, you see. Bhojanam tamasa priyametat. This is the problem. So, all right, then. Aphalak, now he's talking about three kinds of yajna in the three modes. Remember, there are four things we're going to talk about. Ahara, yajna, dana, tapa. So we finished with the ahara now. Now we're talking about yajna. Aphalakankshibir yajno vidhitrishto, adishto, ya idjete, yashtavyame veti manaha, samadhaya satsattvikaha. That means somebody who performs a sacrifice without being too eager for the result. He's not hankering just after the result. He's actually attached to doing the sacrifice for the pleasure of the Lord. And therefore, he does so vitidishta, in accordance to the directions of Scripture. As we heard at the end of chapter 16, this is the essence of all truly human activity. It has to be sanctioned in the Scripture. Yashtavyame veti mana. He thinks yashtavyameva. I'm doing this only because it is yashtavyam. What does yashtavyam mean? This is something that should be done. The Shastra says to do this, therefore I'm doing it. No other questions asked. I have an American tabla teacher, believe it or not, Dr. David Courtney, from the Texas Institute of Indian Studies, and he's married to an Indian, and in fact he had an arranged marriage, and he wrote an essay on this topic many, many years ago. And I found it very interesting because he's a very, very, very smart person. And he actually got it right on this point. He wrote an essay, why are arranged marriages better? And he said, his thesis was that if you marry someone because you love them for any reason, then that's the wrong reason. He said, instead, you have to love your spouse only because this person is your spouse and for no other reason. This is counterintuitive. Usually on anniversaries, God help the man who forgets his anniversary. The women never forget. Men forget, but women never forget. So we always want to get an anniversary card that says, I love you because of, and the list has to be very long, right? But no. According to this thesis, it should not be so. That there should be no reason other than that this person is my spouse. Why? Think about what could possibly motivate that attitude. Why is it like that? I don't know if he even got this far, but he got the idea right. The idea is this. Real love is naturally, has two characteristics. One, there's no hetu. Hetu ka matlab kya hai? Yeah, motive, agenda. Or as we say in modern parlance, expectation. You see, people get so bent out of shape because they don't get their expectations met, right? That's called hetu. Now, real love is ahaituki. There's no hetu. And because it's ahaituki, therefore it's also apratihata. It cannot be frustrated under any circumstance. If your love is not motivated by any factor, I should say, any temporary factor in this material world, and what factors in this material world are not temporary? None. They're all temporary. So if you do not have any temporal hetu motivating your love, then your love cannot be checked. This is called causeless. This is called unmotivated, uninterrupted, pure love. This is what Srimad Bhagavatam mentions. And it should be reflected. A theology that cannot be reflected in your practical activities, in your family life, your social dealings, it's a useless theology. Really. It has to benefit someone. Otherwise, what is the point? You see? So, anyway, I don't know how we got on this topic, but the idea is that yashtavyam eveti mana. He's thinking only that this is enjoined, this is something that should be done, no further questions. This is the right attitude. It's not blind faith, because it is through careful analysis, very discriminating, keen, what do we call, alochna, that you've come to this conclusion. But once you accept the authority, like we accept the spiritual master, you have to be very, very critical until you accept a spiritual master. After you accept a spiritual master, absolutely no tinge of criticism. This is the point. Interesting, isn't it? So, but it's a scientific, it's very scientific. It is not for the less intelligent people. It's for people with very sukshma buddhi. They can do this. Okay, so this is the nature of yajna in the mode of, which one? Sattva guna. Now, Jai Shri Shri Radhani Lamadav. Abhisantaya tu phalam dambhartham apichaiva yat ijjate bharata shreshtatam yajnam vidhi rajasam. Now he's talking about people who sacrifice in the mode of passion. It's performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride. O chief of the Bharatas, you should know that it's in the mode of passion. So what happens when people are performing sacrifices, great sacrifices, but they want to get name and fame? They want a big post, or they want some sort of fruit. They're a pala-kanksha. This is what Krishna said should not be there. Rajaguna means they have this motivation. So that's pretty clear. Vidhihinam asrishtannam mantrahinam adakshinam shraddha virahitam yajnam tamasam parichakshite. When we do some yajna that has no faith, we're just doing it without even believing in it, that is tamasic. And it's useless. Shraddha is the basis of everything. Shraddha has to be there in the beginning. Shraddha is the beginning. Ado Shraddha. And when we have Shraddha, but we don't follow the vidhis, that is also useless. We've already described. Krishna has described in the first two verses. Vidhihinam, that doesn't work either. Then mantrahinam, when there's no mantra involved. Vedic mantra is also not good. And adakshinam. You have to be grateful enough to at least give some dakshina to the priest who's performing the yajna. This is what the yajaman, we say yajaman. And asrishtannam, there has to be some grains involved. Therefore we see practically in Srila Prabhupada's own daily affairs, in his own personal example, whenever anybody would walk in his door, he would always be very concerned to make sure that the person did not walk out the door without prasadam. Best thing is if they don't walk out the door at all. But if they do walk out the door, then at least they should get some prasadam. So this is sacrifice in the mode of ignorance, ignores all these principles. Now, we're going to talk about tapa, 3 modes of tapa. Sattvic tapa, deva dvija guru prajna, pujanam shaucham arjavam, brahmacharyam ahimsacha, shiriram tapa uchyate. This sattvic tapas is involving 3 things, 3 subdivisions. What is it? Physical, mental, and verbal. And so Krishna is now going to talk about all of these 3 kinds of tapas in the 3 modes. So first of all, austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, brahmanas, spiritual master, and superiors like parents. And also in 4 virtues that we should practice. Virtue has to be practiced. If you, what do they say? Use it or lose it? So what virtues do we put into practice if we want to practice sattvic austerity of the body? We are clean, We live very simply, we follow brahmacharya, and we are non-violent. Non-violent. Non-violent means not to harm anyone. And that doesn't just mean physical harm. It means you also have to consider all of your interactions with other living entities. Is this going to result in one or both of us being elevated or not? That's another thing to consider. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. So the verbal austerity means you don't speak in such a way as to agitate another person, but you speak the truth. And you speak in a way that is both pleasing and beneficial. Now that is a very tall order. It is not an easy thing to do this. But therefore we have to practice, and when we do practice this, that is called vangmayatapa, verbal austerity. Human life is meant for this. Animals can't even think about these things. So, swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva. Also, we are going to recite the Vedic literatures regularly, and we're going to speak in such a way that whatever we say can be verified with reference to Shastric. This is a very important point that Prabhupada mentions in his purport here, which I'll read. The process of speaking, penance as far as talking is concerned, is that one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from the scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. We do this. When you go to college and you write a paper, or when you write an article for your professional journal, whatever it is, you have to have references. You have to show that what you're saying has been verified by predecessor authorities. Sometimes you see in scientific journals, 4 or 5 are given for one point that he makes, 4 or 5 references, just to show that this is bona fide. It should be exactly this way when we're in Krishna consciousness. We see that Srila Prabhupada did this. Naito, why is it that throughout his books we find him quoting in full very basic verses that we all know? Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jarat ityadi. Why does he do this? Because otherwise, how would we ever get the message that these are the important verses? That's one reason. Another reason is that if we hear these things enough, then they just become hardwired in our samskar, in our consciousness, our psychology, our sattva samshuddhi is affected. Our whole existence becomes purified. This is called swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. Okay? So that's a very important point. And then, now he's talking about tapasya of the manasik type. Mana prasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhir itetat tapo manasam uchyate. So, the mind has to be peaceful, that is to say cheerful-minded, mana prasada. And saumyatvam, you have to be peaceful, without duplicity towards others. Srila Prabhupada gives his very interesting synonym here. Without duplicity. Simplicity means you're not practicing kutinati. You're not crooked. There's a very nice verse from the Dharma Shastra about this. Anybody here from Hyderabad? Yeah. So in Uppal there's an old Venkatesh temple. Do you know the one? It's a small temple. So I went there one day and I was talking to the Pujari. So he quoted this verse. I don't know where it's from, but I accept it from Shishta. He's an apta, a reliable authority. Vachasi ekam, manasi ekam, karmani ekam, mahatmanaha. Vachasi anyam, manasi anyam, karmani anyam, duratmanaha. You see? The rascal person or the foolish person, he's got one thing in his head, he's got another thing on his tongue, and he's got another thing that he's actually doing. All 3 different. But a Mahatma, he's got one thing on his mind, the same thing on his tongue, and the same thing he's doing. This is the thing. This we have to practice. So this is Saumyatvam. Prabhupada translates it in being without duplicity. Simplicity means to be simple in this way, spiritually simple. And monam means to not that you say nothing at all. One time in Kartak, many, many years ago, I met one brahmachari, not ISKCON, he was some Mayavadi somebody, but he was practicing Mona Vrata. In those days in India, people actually did this. This was in like 1985 or something. Nowadays, I'm sorry to say, it's, we don't even want to discuss what they're doing in Flower Valley and Central Park and other places. But this man was actually sincerely practicing a spiritual discipline. But he was uninformed, so his idea was that Mona means you don't say anything at all. So he saw us, and he was completely astonished. You could see it on his face, because the face is the index of the mind. He was absolutely astonished to see some Angreji Vaishnavas. This was in the early days. They didn't have so many, and this is Kartak is not a little bit inland. So he wanted to say so much, I could see this, but he couldn't do it because so he's very frenetically writing down verses from Bhagavad Gita and showing me, and then I'm just at twice the speed I'm hammering him to death with Prabhupada's philosophy. He had no chance. He had no chance. So Mona Vrata actually means not that you speak nothing at all. It means that you speak when necessary. When is it necessary to speak? When you have Krishna Katha to say, then you speak. When the situation doesn't require speech, then you stay quiet. You see? The Shanakya Pandit also says, the august authority, he speaks once. And sometimes we find that people who have something to say, or even if people just feel that they have something to say, they never let you forget it. That's not dignity. So monam, atma vinigraha means self-control, very clear. Now bhava samshuddhi. Bhava samshuddhi. We talked about sattva samshuddhi a moment ago. Here we have bhava samshuddhi. What does that mean? It means you purify your consciousness. It means swabhava samshuddhi. Basically it means the same thing as sattva samshuddhi. I think Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is glossing the term bhava here as antahakarana. Your subtle body is purified. Your mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this is manasa tapasya in sattva guna. Now, shraddhaya pariyataptam tapastat trividham naraihi aphalakankshi bhiryuktaihi sattvikam parichakshate. The threefold austerity performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits, but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in the mode of goodness. Any of these three, physical, verbal, mental. If your purpose is, this is the second time he said this now, aphalakankshi. If you're aphalakankshi, what does that mean? You're not expecting or hankering for some fruit. Second time he's used this exact phrase. So it's an important one to bookmark. That the teacher writes something on the board twice or three times, it's definitely going to be on the exam. So now he's saying, switching gears here, he says, Satkara mana pujartham tapo dampena chaivayat kriyate tad iha proktam rajasam chalam adhruvam. Very nice, he says. Penance performed out of pride for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in the mode of passion. It's neither stable nor permanent. Satkara means you know what satkara means. You're very like sushrushu. Nowadays in Hindi at least, I don't know other languages, but in Hindi sushrushu means almost like a chamchi. Somebody's just a sycophant, we say in English. He's, just trying to get on your good side or trying to butter you up or something like that. And giving mana, respect, puja, you're offering worship even for this purpose. Any kind of austerity is done like that. Dampena, with pride, naturally, because a person who is passionate must be proud at the same time. They go together. Kriyate tariha proktam rajasam chalamadhruvam. Rajasic tapasya is chalam. What does that mean? It goes quickly. And adhruvam means it's not certain. So you may want some honor in society, you may want somebody to say, people to say good things about you, or you may want to establish a reputation, good reputation. It's yadi. This is all passionate things, but it's very chalam. You may get it for a few moments. But adhruvam means you may also not even get it, because this is Kali Yuga, and people don't give respect in Kali Yuga. Instead, what do we find? Half a dozen times throughout Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say instead? Apamaniyaha. Tata manapamaniyaho. Whether he's advising us to be tolerant, whether people are praising you or blaming you. And most often people praise. No, I'm sorry, they blame rather than praise. You see? So chalam adhruvam means even if you get it, it's chalam, it's going to go very quickly, but even you may not get it also, because it's adhruvam. That's important. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Murha grahin atmano yat pirya kriyate tapah parasyot sadhanartham va tat tamasam udahratam. When you engage in some austerities for the purpose of unseating someone else, upstaging someone else, this is utsadhanartham, parasyot sadhanartham. That is called tamasic tapa, or just murha graha. Murha graha means just you foolishly accept some austerity without even thinking what you're doing. That is also tamasic. You see? Then, datavyamiti yadanam. We're talking about the third issue now. What is the third item? 4 things we're talking about in 3 modes. Ahara, yajna, tapa. This is the 4th one. Dana, charity. So, datavyamiti yadanam diyate anupakarine deshe kale chapatre cha taddanam sattvikam smritam. Charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, to a worthy person, is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Sometimes we see, if you're in the urban place, I don't know, Issaquah, Sammamish is not so urban yet, but if you go to downtown Seattle, you pull up at the end of an off-ramp from the freeway, and you'll find the man says, with a sign that says, "We'll work for beer." This is definitely charity in the mode of ignorance. I actually saw this sign the other day. I forget where it was. I guess it was in Los Angeles. He said, "We'll work for weed." Definitely tamoguna. So to give to such a person, it's the wrong place, it's the wrong person, it's the wrong time, it's everything wrong. That is tamoguna. No, seriously, this is those who are listening very carefully to the instructions Krishna has given about tamoguna. What does he say? They're always striving in the wrong direction. They think that dharma is adharma, and they think that adharma is dharma. And they're always bewildered, and they're always striving in the wrong. Whatever they determine to do, it's the wrong thing. That is tamoguna. The great English poet T.S. Eliot, he said it very nicely. From wrong to wrong, the exasperated spirit proceeds until redeemed by some refining fire. Very nice. From wrong to wrong, the exasperated spirit proceeds until redeemed by some refining fire. That is our position when we're in ignorance. Therefore we say, Om Jnana Timerantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. How can we ever repay? Okay, so this is charity in the mode of goodness. You're giving to the right person. That means you give to a qualified Vaishnava, an advanced devotee. You're giving to a Brahmin at least, and you're giving at the right occasion, say on Radhashtami, and you're giving at the proper location in a holy dham or a temple, and you're not expecting anything in return. You're just doing this because yashtavyame veti mana. It has to be done. This is my duty. Or out of real love, that's even better. I love Krishna, therefore I love his devotees. This is the idea. Taddanam sattvikam smritam. Now, yatu pratyupakarartham phalam uddishyava punaha diyate cha pariklishtam taddanam rajasam smritam. What is the nature of the rajasic dana? Pratyupakarartham. You're expecting that he's going to do me a favor later on. This is not called charity. This is called politics. This is what the politicians are constantly doing. That in fact, they will not make a move unless they know there's something in it for them. This is kutinati consciousness, not simplicity. This is the idea. So they have that intention. And pariklishtam, they giving something, but they don't really want to do it. But they okay, oh yeah, all right. And, the people will get on my case if I don't do something. So yeah, let me do it. That's not good. That's rajasic dana. You see. Okay, so then adeshakala yadanam apatrebhyascha diyate asatkritam avajñatam tat tamasam udahratam. That we've already described. It's the wrong place, it's the wrong time, and it's the wrong recipient. And you're giving disrespectfully even sometimes. I saw one time, there was a beggar in one of the Indian cities, I don't remember which one. Somebody's running by and this beggar, they're kind of like, these guys that are they have these carts and they just push themselves down the street. You don't see them so much in India nowadays. It seems they swept them all out along with the cows. But it used to see them more. So this person was, obviously he was suffering. He really needed something. And he was following after some amir. And so this man just got, he just got irritated. He grabbed a handful of change out of his pocket and threw it at him. Just like that. That's not good. That's even worse than passionate charity. That is called avajñatam, asatkritam avajñatam. Or neglectfully avajñatam, without proper attention. You just, mail them a check. You don't even... That's not good also. That's tamasic charity. Okay, so we've talked about 4 things in the 3 modes of material nature, but in my opinion, the most important instructions in this chapter are in the first 3 or 4 verses, in which Krishna talks about the different kinds of faith, because that is the most consequential knowledge that you can gain from this chapter. Because faith is the essence of everything. Faith is the substrate of everything. This is one of the most under-recognized, under-lectured sections of the Bhagavad Gita, but it's very, very important. This is, we're talking about these 3-4 nights, about the topic of the 3 modes of material nature, and the topic is completely, it is incomplete, I should say, unless we look at these aspects. These are the practical applications of these 3 modes of material nature, how they impact us practically in our lives, how we can make decisions, how we can be aware of why we make decisions and what decisions we make. So these things are all very, very important. I'm going to stop here because it's late now, but if anybody has any questions or any comments, we can discuss. One of the things that is very important, but it's only implicit in the beginning of chapter 17, is this principle that we should live a life that is based on scriptural injunction. That is not a problem so much for the Indians, at least for traditional Indians, and I'm going to assume for everyone here sitting in this room who is Indian. But for the American people, you need to know that they have absolutely no concept of dharma. I mentioned this the other night. The reason that we don't have the word dharma or any comparable word dharma in English is because the concept that requires that word is not existing in the English-speaking population. You understand? It's just like this. When you go to the North Pole, you will find 150 synonyms for ice because ice is a very prominent aspect of life on the North Pole. If you I'm sorry?
You live in the Amazon, all the plants.
Yeah, people don't understand insects in the Amazon. So Indians understand dharma, but outside people do not understand it, and therefore they don't have a word. That's why we find sometimes Prabhupada translates dharma. Well, what does it mean? You tell me. What does dharma mean? What does the word dharma mean? Definition of the word dharma. Intrinsic property of a thing. Lakshana, in other words. That's the scientific definition. What else does it mean? Duty. That's a very different thing than the intrinsic property, isn't it? Anything else? Following laws of God, okay. What else? Following social laws, legal laws, ethical laws also. Your occupation, that's another dharma as well. Duty, yeah. See, these are all very different concepts, but they actually all mean one thing in Sanskrit, and that's why the word dharma is appropriate. Once you try to put this into you can't find one word that subsumes all the meanings that are included in dharma. This is the problem. The problem is not Prabhupada's translation. The problem is the inadequacy of the English language to express spiritual concepts. This is the problem. Therefore we have... Oh, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Therefore we have inconsistent definitions of the word dharma, and the Western people get thoroughly confused by this. You need to know this. Because in chapter 6, Krishna tells us that he considers the best yogi to be whom? No. He also says that, but I'm thinking of 6:32. Anybody know it? Atmaupam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjana sukham va yadi va dukham so yogi paramo mata. I consider that person to be the best yogi who is able to empathize. We can see that Srila Prabhupada had this ability to empathize to a tremendous degree. He could understand. Not only Srila Prabhupada, I saw Tamal Krishna Goswami also had this uncanny ability. He would sit with someone for 5 minutes and he knew everything, what was motivating that person, what the person's doubts were, what his background was. He was so sensitive. You see, this is called empathy. And Krishna says that if you want to be the best yogi, you have to have this. So the problem is that when we're in Mahamaya, we cannot empathize with those who are covered by Yogamaya. And when we're in Yogamaya, we also cannot empathize with those who are covered by Mahamaya. So Indians have a hard time, to the extent that their civilization and their psychology retains its innate spiritual focus. They have a hard time conceiving of how, I hate to use such a crude term as blunt the Westerners are in terms of dharma in particular. They understand spiritual concepts, but this is not a purely spiritual concept. This is something we can more appropriately or accurately maybe call metaphysical. But it's very, very consequential, and that's why we find it throughout the Bhagavad Gita as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam also. And for that matter, in Srila Prabhupada's own preaching career, in the last 3 years that he was with us in this world, he gave roughly 80% of his instructions on this one topic, Varnashram Dharma. Because he saw that his own disciples had trouble maintaining their spiritual lives because of that lack. Unless there's social stability, more than just social stability, stability, loka sangraha is what Krishna calls it in chapter 3. What is that called? Social solidarity based on spiritual, mental, emotional, psychological, ethical, integrity, we can say. It's very, very important. And Western people, even their devotees, they don't get it in many, many, many cases. They just don't get it. So those of you who do have some idea, even if it's the wrong idea, you have to help them with that, because it's a great challenge and it's a great obstacle for making further spiritual advancement. The future belongs to Indian devotees in this respect, because you have I used to tell them when I was here years ago in Seattle, you have the system requirements to run the software. We don't. We're looking at life purely in terms of sense gratification. Any Indian, even an ignorant Indian, knows that the first thing you have to, spiritual things have to be done first thing in the day. The average American has no such idea. It's that they're that covered, really. Anyway, that's a big topic, and it's maybe a different one, but it's related to this point. That a life that is based on scriptural injunction through careful deliberation based on hearing from proper authorities, That's a very, very important thing, and it seems to be the very thrust of what Krishna is saying in chapter 16 and 17, all the way into the beginning of chapter 18. Okay, any other questions, any comments? Not one? Okay, so then we'll stop here. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.